Today, we're going to dive deep into a 2,000-year-old text that, believe it or not, is wrestling with a question that feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's all about intent, action, and what it really means to get something right. I mean, really think about that for a second. Let's say you volunteer, but you're only doing it to impress someone. Or you give a gift, but it's totally out of obligation, not generosity. Is the action still good? Does your intention behind it change everything? Well, the ancient sages of the Talmud debated this exact problem with incredible detail, and their answer is just fascinating. All right, to really get what they're talking about, we have to travel back in time. Picture the ancient temple in Jerusalem. We're going to zoom in on a very specific ritual called the Menachot, which was the meal offering. We're talking an offering made of fine flour. So the process itself had 4 pretty straightforward physical steps. A priest takes a handful of the flour, puts it in a special vessel, carries that vessel over to the altar, and then burns the handful. Seems simple enough, right? Once that's done, the person who brought the offering is all set. They've fulfilled their obligation. But what happens when the priest's mind is somewhere else entirely? Now, in this world, wrong intention has a super specific meaning. It's not that the priest was daydreaming about what's for lunch. No, it means he did the right action for this offering, but he was thinking it was for a different kind of offering, like doing the steps for a voluntary offering while thinking it was for an obligatory one. Okay, so here's the general rule they laid down, and this is the crucial part. If the priest does the right thing, but with this specific wrong intention, the offering itself is still considered valid. It can still be used in the ritual. But, and this is a really big but, it doesn't count for the person who brought it. Their obligation is not fulfilled, and they have to bring a whole new offering. And this is where it gets really interesting, because like any good rule, this one has exceptions. It turns out there are 2 very specific meal offerings where this whole valid but doesn't count idea just completely falls apart. And right here is where we see a huge difference. For most offerings, the wrong intent leads to a partial failure, right? It's valid, but no credit. But for these 2 special offerings, that same wrong intention makes the entire thing totally invalid, just disqualified right from the start. So what are these 2 special cases? Well, first is the meal offering brought by a sinner as part of their atonement. And second is the meal offering of jealousy, which is brought when a husband suspects his wife of infidelity. So why are they different? Because these aren't just voluntary gifts. They are required, obligatory responses to really serious human problems, sin and jealousy. In cases like these, the intent has to be absolutely spot on. Okay, and this is where the analysis gets really cool. The true genius of this whole argument is hidden in a single word. The sages noticed this tiny little choice of words in the original text that unlocked a much, much deeper ethical idea. The original text, the Mishna, when it states the general rule, says the offerings are valid, but they did not satisfy the owner's obligation. The sages zoomed right in on that one word, but. In the original Hebrew, it's the word Ella. And that's the puzzle, right? Why use the word but? It creates a kind of tension, a contrast. The text could have just said the offering is valid and it doesn't fulfill the obligation. Easy. So why phrase it like a contradiction? What is that little word but trying to teach us? Well, the answer reveals this profound idea about the integrity of a process. It suggests that even after you've made a mistake, your responsibility to do things the right way doesn't just, vanish. So here's the hidden lesson they pulled out of that word. The but sets up a contrast to tell us something critical. It's basically saying, sure, the offering is still valid and the ritual can continue, but there's a catch. Just because that first step, taking the handful, was messed up by the wrong intent, that does not give you a license to just get sloppy with the rest of the steps. The point is this: one error at the beginning doesn't justify making more errors all the way through. You messed up step 1? You still have an absolute duty to perform the next 3 steps, placing, carrying, and burning with the correct intention. And this wasn't just some one-off idea. The great sage Rava makes the exact same point about a totally different kind of offering. He says if you slaughter an animal with the wrong intention, you are still forbidden from then sprinkling its blood with the wrong intention. One mistake doesn't give you a free pass to make another one. So the principle is set. It's solid. But how did the sages actually prove it? Well, they use two different but equally brilliant methods of reasoning, which are really the trademarks of Talmudic thinking. This basically shows us their entire intellectual toolkit. First, they use pure logic and appeal to what just makes sense, common sense. And second, they anchor their argument in the biblical text itself with this really clever and insightful reading of a specific verse. The logical proof is basically this powerful rhetorical question. It's like asking, hey, just because somebody messed up once, does that mean they should just keep messing up all the way to the end? And the answer, of course, is a huge no. It's an appeal to our basic sense of integrity. One wrong turn doesn't mean you just drive off the cliff. Now, the scriptural proof is even more detailed, but it's pretty amazing. They look at a verse from Deuteronomy that seems to mix up the words for a vow and a gift. And their interpretation is that when you perform a vowed offering with the wrong intent, yeah, it doesn't fulfill your vow, but it gets downgraded to the status of a voluntary gift. But here's the kicker. Even a gift has rules. You can't just do whatever you want with it. It still has to be treated with respect, and the process has to be completed properly. Okay, so let's zoom all the way back out. What does this ancient legal debate have to say to us today, far away from any temple or altar? What this all really shows us is that the how matters just as much as the what. It's teaching that a flawed start doesn't just cancel out our responsibility to see things through with integrity. Your initial motive might have been off, yeah, but that doesn't make everything you do after that meaningless. You still have a duty to do it right. Which brings us right back to where we started. In our own lives, our jobs, our relationships, our communities, if we start something for the wrong reason, is there a point where the integrity of our actions can actually redeem that bad intent? Or does a flawed intention just poison the well no matter how perfectly we act afterwards? It's definitely something worth thinking about.